It's Valerie. Vaikuru Ji Ka Khalsa, Vaikuru Ji Ki Fateh. The beloved community belongs to divine oneness, and so does all that it achieves. I'm here with my brother and Revolutionary Love Fellow, Deep Singh.
Hello, everyone.
And we're here together this weekend at the Sikh Gurdwara of Oak Creek, Wisconsin. You can see the Gurdwara behind us. For those of you who do not know, 5 years ago this weekend, a white supremacist walked into this Gurdwara and opened fire. It was the deadliest attack on the Sikh community since we made America home a century ago. It was also among the largest attacks on any faith community in recent US history. So just as the bombing of the Birmingham church took away 4 little girls and galvanized the civil rights movement in 1963, and just as the massacre in a Charleston church created such a firestorm for so many of us who care about Black Lives Mattering and taking down the Confederate flag, so too this massacre has galvanized the Sikh community. And yet 5 years later, many Americans don't remember Oak Creek or what it has meant to us. 5 years later, this tragedy deserves to be remembered. Not just because it shows us the face of hate, but because there are lessons here to be learned. And the truth is, since last election season and under this current administration, the threat of another Oak Creek has never been greater. Hate crimes are the highest they've been against Sikh and Muslim Americans since September 11th. We know that the number of anti-Muslim hate groups have tripled in the last year. And just yesterday, as we were gathering with the community to remember all the lives who were lost in this Gurdwara, just a few hours away, a firebomb went off in a Minnesota mosque. Thankfully, no one was injured. But it just shows that in this current climate, when hate violence is just, the threat of hate violence is braided into our daily lives, to be Muslim, to be Sikh, to be brown in America means that no space is sacred and no day, in fact, is sacred. That we're always, even as we're resolving to meet hate with Chardi Kala, with ever-rising high spirits in the Sikh tradition, we're also having to face a rather hopeless moment in US history. But where I gather strength is from my Sangat, from people like Deep, who keep me in Chardi Kala, keep me in ever-rising high spirits, and from all of you. And so what we wanted to do this morning is, because so many people have not been inside of a Sikh Gurdwara, cannot imagine what the inside of a Gurdwara feels like, why it is sacred, and why this was such a terrible violation. We wanted to show you the inside of it. We wanted to show you the community gathering inside of it. And we also hope that as you go into it, you might imagine visiting your own local Sikh Gurdwara. There are Gurdwaras all across the country, and if you just Google it, just look it up, we'll also post a link on this Facebook Live to find the nearest Gurdwara to you. The doors are open to you. I think the only way to combat hate in this moment in history is through developing real and authentic relationships with people who are different from us. Because if we see each other as brothers and sisters, if we love one another as brothers and sisters, then it becomes easier to stand up for one another as brothers and sisters in our time of need. So we want to show you the inside of the Gurdwara so you can think of it as your own space, your own sacred space that you're welcome to at any time. Deep, you want to say anything before we start moving?
Yeah, I just want to say thank you, everyone, for joining in and for spending part of your day with us. It's always a wonderful opportunity to get to share this with people, and I'm happy that we get to do this on this digital platform.
And Sarah, I see that you're sending prayers. I'm seeing notes come in, and Rachel, thank you so much.
Rachel.
So please stay with us as we lead you inside. You'll see that there are golden domes above the Gurdwara. This is new. 5 years ago, it was just a flat roof. And this was part of the spirit of the community to adorn their Gurdwara in this way. Before we step directly inside, I just want to show you the parking lot in Oak Creek. Oak Creek, Wisconsin is on the outskirts of Milwaukee, so it's a rural place, suburbs, strip malls, a lot of fields, barns. This Gurdwara, this parking lot behind me is where the gunman Wade Michael Page first approached the Gurdwara, and 2 brothers who were singers of spiritual Sikh music, known as Granthis, Ranjit Singh and Sita Singh, they came outside to greet Wade Michael Page, to offer him tea, to ask him to come inside and sit with us. Gurdwara doors are open. But this is where the two of them were killed by him before he went inside and continued the rampage. So this space here is also sacred space to us. Right behind me is where Lieutenant Brian Murphy, the first police officer who appeared on the scene, saw the bodies in the parking lot and began to engage the gunman in order to stop him. He had already committed the rampage inside of the Gurdwara, came outside when he saw the police officer, shot at Brian Murphy. Brian took 15 bullets, 15 bullets. And when he was on the ground, warm, feeling the lull of death around him, he remembered his mother, who died a few years prior. He remembered his sister, who also died of cancer. He remembered his wife and his kids and wanted to live for them. And he thought of the people inside of the Gurdwara and thought, if I die, then more of them will die. And so even when he was on the ground, broken and bleeding, he kept moving to get to his car to try to give the gunman a target. It's a miracle that Brian survived. And today he continues to be a vocal advocate for the Sikh community and against hate in America. And so this is where a hero fell and rose up again. Right inside.
Gaggi was missing you. Gaggi wanted to see
Okay,
you.
we'll go inside.
Yeah.
So it's like family here. This is the poster for the Chardi Kala race that the young people of Oak Creek organize every year in honor of the people who die. Now, if you can imagine this, so Chardi Kala means ever rising high spirits, right? Even in darkness, even despair, ever rising high spirits. Just 1 year after these sons and daughters lost their parents and aunts and uncles, these same young people came together to organize a memorial run and race in honor of their loved ones that invited the entire community. More than 1,000 people attended, and every year since then they've done that. We just had the race yesterday. It was beautiful, it was moving. I've grown up as a Sikh, I've grown up with the concept of Chardi Kala all my life, but I have never felt it viscerally in my body. I've never witnessed it more than I've witnessed it here. You know, 5 years ago, I was here with my husband Sharad and my teammates to document, to film the aftermath of the tragedy, to report, to advocate with the communities. There was no Facebook Live then, I was just tweeting. And so to be able to share this space with you now, I'm so grateful for the opportunity to do so, and that you're all with me as we go inside.
So the first thing we do when we go into Gurdwara, we take off our shoes and we cover our head.
You want to show them?
Sure, we'll go with you.
So this is the inside.
The inside.
So in this hall is where if you go to the Gurdwara, you take off your shoes. On this side, women and girls remove their shoes. And on that side, men. And so,
She's gonna play with us.
so I'm going to take off my shoes here. And then if your head is not already covered, you grab a head covering to
Like
cover your
Valerie
head.
did. So,
there's
but
usually-
otherwise there's a box like this.
So you grab the head covering, cover your head, and the taking off of the shoes and the covering of the hair, it's really a gesture of respect for the Guru, for the teachings that we're about to receive and listen to.
We see you, Yusra. We see you, Maria.
Oh, there you are.
Thanks for joining us.
Thank you for joining us. We're inside of the Sikh Gurdwara of Oak Creek, Wisconsin, where the community is remembering the mass shooting here 5 years ago, but coming together in the spirit of hope and optimism. We usually wash our hands.
Another sign of just respect and of the dignity and the hygiene that we bring when we come into a sacred space.
But she's like as close. She's as close as us. But she's also close as yeah.
when the gunmen entered this space, this is difficult because I was here just a few days after the mass shooting happened, and usually the FBI cleans up the crime scene and hands it back to the community. But in this case, the Sikh community of Oak Creek said, no, we will clean up our Gurdwara with our own hands. And so the mass shooting happened on Sunday morning, August 5th, 2012. On Thursday morning, the same people, like the same survivors of the shooting, came back to their Gurdwara, rolled up their sleeves, played the kirtan, the prayers that you're hearing, in order to clean up the Gurdwara themselves. They pulled out the blood-soaked carpets from the ground. They repaired the shattered glass in the windows. They painted over the bullet holes in the walls. And so I was there with them as they were rebuilding the Gurdwara with their own hands. And I remember seeing the bullet holes in the walls, and I know exactly where each of our beloved ones fell. And so this space, every time I'm here, I remember Saveg Singh Katra. Saveg Singh was a retired farmer, a grandfather who came to Oak Creek to be with his son and daughter and their granddaughter, and his granddaughter. He was often found in the Gurdwara, closing his eyes, meditating inside of the music, the spiritual music. And when they found him, his turban was knocked to the side, and he was right here. And so I think of him when I enter, and I think of all the others. You'll see, actually we'll come back and you'll see all the others. I want to continue to walk through. And every Sikh Gurdwara is divided has two rooms, a prayer hall known as a Divan hall and a Langar hall where we eat together. Now in the prayer hall, in the Divan hall, is where Simran happens. We remember God. Simran means to remember, to simmer on the name of God. So in the prayer hall, we remember God. And how do we do it? We do it through music and song and poetry. And so what I'm about to show you is the prayer hall. And next we'll go to the Langar hall where we serve food, free communal meal. And so if in the prayer hall we remember God, in the Langar hall we realize God. Because it is through seva, spiritually grounded service, through loving and serving our brothers and sisters that we experience God as oneness within us. And so these two places are equally important. And whenever you go into a Sikh Gurdwara, what you want to do first is go into the prayer hall, which we'll show you, and then go to the Langar hall to sit and eat with us. And so all your senses will be satisfied in this experience. So I'm going to show you the prayer hall, and then I'll explain. We can explain a little bit about what happens.
But
okay.
We see you, Harjinder. We see you, Nikki. Thanks for joining, Sona. We're gonna go in now, and you'll see the prayer hall.
Here are the doors. This is the one bullet hole that the community did not repair. They left it in the doorway to the prayer hall. So this is in the doorway to where we remember God. And underneath, in gold, they wrote, "We are one," which captures Ik Onkar, which is the first utterance of our Sikh scripture. Oneness. Ik Onkar means oneness, and so we are one is a reminder that even massacre will not break our understanding of this central truth. Ik Onkar is represented in this Ik Onkar, in this word that begins our scripture. And so every time I come, I touch this bullet hole and take it to my heart to know the strength of my people and the truth of oneness. So when you enter a Gurdwara, you walk down the central pathway as you listen to the music to bow your head out of respect for the scriptures. And you usually offer just $1 as an offering. So watch Deep do this. This is where the Guru Granth Sahib lives. This is our everlasting teacher. It is all composed of poetry, devotional hymns that remind us of the truth of oneness. And in the center, you'll see Ikonkar, oneness. You'll also see swords on the either side to remind us that we are called to fight against injustice whenever it appears as warriors of love.
Okay.
So I want to make sure you know what we just did.
Yes.
So to recap, when you walk into a Gurdwara, you enter through the doors and you take just $1. You go all the way up and just bow your head down out of respect for the Guru, for the teachings. You leave the $1 as an offering, and you can sit like you saw all the people sitting to listen to the spiritual music that is meant to uplift you out of language, out of time, out of duality, into this soaring experience of Sahaj, of oneness. But don't worry, this is complicated, because as soon as you walk in, someone will take your hand and lead you through it.
And now we get to go on to the Langar Hall, where through seva, through service, we get to experience and practice those teachings of oneness and live out the values that we just led us into this experience of Sahaj.
So you can follow me. And now that you've seen the inside of the prayer hall, I have to tell you that that Wade Michael Page, the gunman, killed Paramjit Kaur in the prayer hall while she was praying. So when I go into the prayer hall, I remember the mother who was killed. Hi, Vanita.
Come on, join us.
Hi, Jim.
How are you? Good to see you once again. Outstanding. We didn't have a chance to chat last night. Spectacular. I was doing my bad.
Sure. Okay. This is Vanita and Jim Santel. Vanita Gupta. Would you mind introducing yourself and saying a few words about why you're here?
Sure. I'm Vanita Gupta. I'm the current president and CEO of the Leadership Conference on Civil and Human Rights, and I was the head of the Civil Rights Division for the last 2.5 years of the Obama administration. And I really wanted to come here today to honor the memory of those who lost their lives at the Gurdwara, really as an expression of everything that we are working towards, to building a country that is inclusive, that is fair, that welcomes everyone, and that is true to our ideals. This day 5 years ago was an astonishing tragedy for all of us around the country who felt attacked for the very values that are the founding ideals of our country. And for me today, it was just a way for for me to pay homage to the work that we have to do together to build the kind of country we believe in. So thank you.
Vanita, I just want to thank you from all of us. Right after the tragedy, Michelle Obama came and she met with the families. And I remember being with Harpreet Sani, the 18-year-old who lost his mother, who was killed on that patch of carpet right there. And he was so nervous meeting her. And when she embraced Harpreet, he came out with a big smile. And he said, "My mother is not forgotten." And that made him strong enough to go all the way to Congress to testify before the Senate and ask the federal government to change federal hate crimes policy so that the government would now track hate crimes against Sikhs and other minorities. And it was President Obama and his administration that made sure that that policy change happened. And it was this community that turned love into social change in that way. But it couldn't have happened without officials like yourself who believed in us, who mourned with us, and then who organized with us. And the fact that you have not forgotten us in this particular climate, when the threat of hate is just braided into our daily lives, when another Oak Creek, the threat has never been greater, in a time of so much pain, the fact that you are still with us. You're not the hero who comes to save the day, you are the lover who stays and stays. You know? We thank you from our heart.
Well, I draw inspiration from the Sikh community, and to me, Sikhism is about all of this. And it's me who is learning from the Sikh religion and from the religions that really promote peace and value. And we can't forget what happened in Oak Creek today, especially right now when there are too many communities around the country that are feeling very vulnerable, that are where we're really concerned about the legitimization of hate around the country. This is counter not only to Sikhism, but to the very ideals of our country. And for me, it's a way of keeping myself connected to the really important fight that we have today for everything that we stand for. So thank you, and thank you for everything that you've been doing on these issues and far, far beyond, because we all have to be incredibly vigilant as we want to ensure that everyone is welcome and has a place in the United States of America. So thank you.
Thank you so very much.
Can I grab you just for a moment?
I absolutely would be pleased.
Everyone, I am
right.
so honored to introduce you to the former Attorney General here, James Santel. I have no words to express. If we could take a picture of what solidarity looks like, it would be Jim.
This is it. This is absolutely it.
You showed up in such a powerful way to make sure that we can marshal all federal resources at every level in order to respond to the tragedy. But Jim, you have stayed with us. You are often found in the Sikh Gurdwara, drinking cups of cha, being with the community. You've learned so much about our faith. You are more like masterful of principles of the Sikh faith than many of us.
I don't know that that's true, but I'll accept the right. Very nice. Right?
So, how are you feeling today, and what do you want people to remember about this story?
We are here plainly at a time of great celebration of life and of the future, even as we look back to history and the tragic events that happened here 5 years ago. So it is this wonderful and terrible balance that we do in our lives today, right? We are remembering not only those people who were lost, but also injured in ways that today we can't begin to comprehend. I'm going to talk today about the fact that their lives were not lost in vain. They are martyrs in this place and in this venue, but what has happened in the wake of their losses, their losses of their lives have become so meaningful to this nation, to this state, and to this Gurdwara in ways, some of which you've already discussed, but in many ways that we cannot begin to quantify. I will tell you, I'm also going to speak a little bit about my own personal connection with you, with the Gurdwara, with all the wonderful people who have so animated my life. Out of great tragedy and horror and disappointment and loss, sometimes comes things of beauty. You described it as love, and that's appropriate. This has also been a great path of education and learning and growth for me, like it is for so many other people in this community, about the Sikh faith, but also more than that, about the importance, as you have said, of community, of engagement with one another, of knowing that, we are all not just the same, but we're also cut from the same cloth, and our faiths that we seemingly divide us do not. The Sikh faith can be the faith of Islam, of Judaism, of Christianity, of the Jain faith, of Buddhists, of Hindus. It is all about love and safety and security and service and being a part of a wonderful community. So those are things that I have also learned in the wake of this tremendous tragedy here. It is such a delightful and reverent day both. And we're so pleased also, Valerie, that you are here. Last night, I know that so many of us were so delighted to see the wonderful first portion of your exciting new film about those human stories that you tell so well. Great initial cut, and looking forward to seeing the entire piece that captures in ways that words do not, certainly my words do not, but images do and you do so well, the movement of this community from a tragedy 5 years ago to the Chardi Kala joy that happened immediately and continues to this day. So thank you for being here also and sharing that with us last night, and your many skills for many, many years equally, 5 years and for the next 5, 10, 15, and 20 years beyond. It's my great pleasure.
May every public official be as generous, loving, smart, and caring as Jim Singh.
And we feel the same way about you and all the work that you do, and everyone listening as well. We're all in this together. It is a community of human beings. Thank you, Valerie. Good. We'll talk to you again soon.
Yeah.
And we'll visit again with you very soon as well. We're looking forward to that exciting film coming out very soon, right?
So now I have to tell everybody about this film.
All right, you do. Now you do.
So last night, so everyone, we've been filming here for the last 5 years, in the hours after the mass shooting, all the way up until yesterday. And what Jim was talking about was that we showed a rough cut of our film. It's called The Oak Creek Massacre, a story of revolutionary love. We showed it here to the widows, to the children, to the survivors of the tragedy. It was like it broke open a space of many tears. Grief surfaced. We wept together, but we were together, and so we held that grief together. And there were also smiles at the end as they saw how much their kids had grown and how much the community has built new relationships like the ones that you just saw, and has actually advocated for lasting change.
And it showed how much they had chosen love. In the face of that hatred and violence, there was an instinct to choose hate. But what the documentary reflected back to them was their own story, that they had chosen love. And look at all of the positive things in their lives that had occurred in the last 5 years. Yes, they were mourning. Yes, there was sadness. And today, until this day, there is still sadness. But that does not drive out the ability to hope, the ability to love, and the ability to carry on, and to live in that state of Chardi Kala. And as an outsider, that is what I have learned by my visits to Oak Creek.
Do you see why Deep is my brother and fellow with the Revolutionary Love Project?
Let's move on to the Langar Hall.
We promised you to take you to
Langar
the food.
Hall.
So here we are. There's Nirmal, who does a lot of educational work.
Hi, Nirmal. Thank you.
This is the Langar Hall. This is where we serve food, we make food, serve food, and we sit on the floor as equals, side by side, to eat food together. So if you go to a Sikh Gurdwara, you will not leave without being fed.
It is a vegetarian meal, and it is free, and everyone eats together. And so the whole construct or concept of this is that it is a way of us practicing equality. No one is higher than anyone else. We all are together, and one of the highest honors is serving the food, preparing the food and serving the food. Doing that seva or selfless work on behalf of others is a spiritual practice in Sikhism, and it is a joy to participate in.
So you can imagine then how devastating it was when the gunman walked in. He fired in the prayer hall, and then he came to the Langar Hall, and all of the women and children were inside of the kitchen making food, and they hid in a pantry when they heard the gunshots. One of the women remembered that she left a burner on the stove, and rushed out to turn the burner off. And she stopped and saw the gunman's face staring into hers. And he fired many shots, but it only skimmed her, and she was able to dive back into the pantry. It was a sliding door, so the gunman must have thought that it was an exit and not actually a pantry door. If he knew it was a pantry door, he could have done a lot more damage. And so what we're about to show you is the kitchen where the women were making the food and the pantry. And I just want to remind you, this is in this same space, just a few days later, the same women have come back. They come in here every morning. They say they're not afraid. This is their gurdwara. This is their practice. This is our faith. This is our expression of love. And not even massacre will shake that. So keep that in mind as we're showing you where it all happened.
They are an inspiration to fearlessness.
So first, this is where you line up to get food. You come inside. Here's the kitchen. This is Bummy Auntie. I call her my Masi Ji. She's like my mother's sister. Okay. And Bummy Auntie is my brave auntie who came out of the pantry to turn the burner off. Look at her. She's full of life and she's full of love and she's making so much food for everybody for the weekend. Bummy Auntie, we love you.
Thank you.
Oh, this is kheer, everybody. It's the very sweet rice pudding. Sweet rice pudding. This is Auntie. This Auntie lost her father-in-law, Sikh Singh Khatra, and still she is full of strength and love and comes to the Gurdwara all the time. Auntie Ji, how are you feeling today?
I'm feeling strong. Okay, good. I'm missing my father-in-law.
We will never forget him. I promise.
I know.
And hundreds of people are watching right now, and they will never forget him. So a lot of sorrow, a lot of grief, and a lot of resolve.
Why don't we head to the front?
Oh, I want to show you just one more. There were bullet holes all over this Langar hall, and so they had to do so many repairs in the kitchen. Here is the pantry where the women and children hid. 16 of them. 16 of them in this tiny space. And yet. So we're now leaving the kitchen. For those of you just joining, I see my mommy just joined. Hi! I'm showing everybody the Gurdwara. I'm teaching them what you taught me since I was a little girl. And just one moment. I need to know.
I know you're busy and Monday from Sunday.
Okay, I want to show you on the wall of the Langar Hall are portraits of our gurus, of our teachers, and the ways that they fought and sacrificed to keep our faith alive through the centuries. And so we draw upon our ancestors to have courage in the face of violence and to continue to promise to be warriors.
Can I say thank you?
No,
Okay.
I'm not done yet.
Okay.
I'm almost done. There's one last place I want to take you. So we've been to the prayer hall, we've been to the Langar hall, and now I just want to show you the portraits of
Yes.
the ones we will always remember. The one place you have not seen are rooms on this side of the Gurdwara. And the reason I need to point out these rooms is that on that morning of the shooting, Satwant Singh Kaleka was getting ready in his room and fought the gunman, was killed. Prakash Singh was also killed in those rooms. His children found his body and saw his eye out of his eye socket and asked their father to wake up, please wake up. These children still come to this Gurdwara, this place where their father died. I've seen them grow up. They're very brave. And in that room on this side is where Baba Punjab Singh was shot. Baba Punjab Singh was a great renowned teacher who the bullet entered his right jaw and damaged his spinal cord. He has been unable to move or speak for the last 5 years, and yet whenever we ask him if he's in Chardi Kala, he blinks twice. Yes. If you go to my post, you can see pictures from my visit with him. So the last thing I want to do is I want to show you the faces of each of the people we are remembering today. Prakash Singh. He had been a priest here for 7 years. In June 2012, he returned with his wife, Ravinder, his son, his wife Ravinder, his son Prabjot, and daughter Pulmeet. So the family was just reunited when the shooting happened. Paramjit Kaur. Her 2 sons, Kamal and Harpreet, miss her every day. They were 18 and 20 when she was killed. She was at the Gurdwara all the time, caring for her son selflessly. Harpreet, her son, became the first Sikh to testify before Congress, telling them his mother's story. And Kamal became a Marine, like Lieutenant Brian Murphy, who almost died trying to protect his mother. Kamal has taken inspiration from Brian Murphy to serve his country. He tells me, hate lost because I'm still serving the country that took my mother away. Suvek Singh Katra, you just met his daughter-in-law, a Sikh grandfather who's survived by 5 children and 7 grandchildren. We've lost too many grandfathers in our community. Satwant Singh Kaleka, the temple president, who died fighting the gunman. His son, Pradeep Kaleka, received a message from Arno Michaelis, a former white supremacist. Arno reached out to apologize for the death of his father. He felt responsible. Since then, Pradeep and Arno have joined forces. They now travel the country, combating hate through their friendship. Sita Singh and Ranjit Singh, 2 brothers who served the Gurdwara, sang the devotional hymns, performed kirtan. They were the first who were killed outside. And Punjab Singh, who I called Papaji, father. 5 years. He was a man of soaring oratory who taught us how to live in Chardi Kala. Now he's a man of no words. Yet, just through his blinking, he's still teaching us. They say that his condition is like locked-in syndrome. He is present, his mind is present. Sometimes I think that Punjab Singh represents the state of the larger Sikh community. Hate tries to kill us, but it does not succeed. We go on living, we refuse to die, and somehow, beyond all odds, we find a way to communicate to the larger world, to all of you, that we are in a state of Chardi Kala. We blink twice. We invite you to take our hand and blink with us. Rise up with us.
Thank you.
stepping out of the Gurdwara because they're finishing with ardas, the closing prayer. The last thing I want to share with you is that the Sunday after the shooting, the community gathered together and performed the ardas, and they named every single person who was killed in the shooting. They also named the soul of the gunman. The community prayed for the soul of the gunman. I hope that you can take these stories of Oak Creek that have been largely forgotten, take them into your heart, tell these stories, draw your strength from them, stand with us as a community, come to a Sikh Gurdwara. Now that you know what it's like, you have no excuse. You know that you're welcome here. And know that your love is revolutionary when you live it out loud. Thank you so much for joining
Thank you,
us.
everyone. Thank you so much. Bye-bye.